The rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, whose real name is Daniel Hernandez, appeared in federal court for sentencing.
47
now,
years
if you're
in prison.
familiar with 6ix9ine, you know he's had a lot of issues with law enforcement.
Now, when 6ix9ine said he don't fuck with no old hoes, only new hoes, this is not what I had in mind.
Are you a registered sex offender?
Me going through the jail system for the first time, and it was just like, yo, my life changed like this.
Take a spot, up a couple chops. Pop that nigga with 100 shots. They didn't make that nigga diddy bop.
I'm sure we're both familiar with XXXTentacion.
I know how it feels to be alone. I know how it feels to be around people and feel alone. Like,
being one of the more memorable artists to gain recognition during the rise of SoundCloud rap in mid-2017, X was able to use his signature style and personality to elevate his status above his peers in a way most others at the time couldn't, despite the abundance of talent SoundCloud has to offer.
Beat up a kindergartner, that nigga was 5 years old. Fucked with a sick bitch, now I got a cold. Just kicked this dog cause he was trying to fight. Just caught a crackhead trying to steal my bike.
In almost no time at all, X went from being held in a juvenile detention center to being featured on Kanye West's 9th studio album. Though he arguably wouldn't be the massive icon he is today without the constant swirl of controversy surrounding his name. Not only resurrecting the age-old quandary of separating an artist from their art, but also underlining the significance drama can play in a celebrity's rise to fame in this day and age. And although the circumstances may vary case by case, I find this phenomenon to be a pretty valuable one, especially when it comes to a peculiar figure by the name of Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Stupid ass nigga. 6ix9ine, oh, he looks so stupid. He got 6ix9ine on his face. Oh, he not gonna have a job. I don't need a job, dummy. You fucking dummy. Look, make that call, dummy.
But first, yes, we have a sponsor. Hunt a Killer was so kind as to reach out to me during this quite frightening year we call 2020 with their brand new Halloween mystery box. Instead of a traditional murder mystery, they've teamed up with Lionsgate to bring you a chillingly entertaining tabletop game that involves the Blair Witch cinematic universe. Said to be their scariest box yet, you'll get to piece together the history of the Blair Witch by sifting through cryptic documents, discovering audio recordings. It's like a haunting escape room being delivered right to your door. Being the perfect activity for a small gathering or a date night with the spouse, the game creates an ongoing narrative. So it's like you become a part of the story as you complete each episode. But don't take my word for it. Listen to their 100,000 active subscribers and 2,000 5-star reviews, so you know their storytelling skills are top-notch. Click the link in the description below to receive 20% off your first box today. Huge thanks to Hunt a Killer for putting an awesome mystery box on my doorstep and a fat check in my mailbox.
No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world, and today we got Tekashi 6ix9ine in this bitch. How you doing, bro?
what's up, bro? You know that shit. Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Daniel Hernandez was approached by a Brooklyn record executive while working at a vegan bodega in Bushwick at the age of just 15 years old. The CEO of Hikari Ultra, known by the name of Righteous P, asked if Hernandez had ever thought about going into music, noting that his appearance and cadence closely resembled what he considered to be the spitting image of a New York rapper, despite Hernandez never showing any personal interest in the genre prior. But it was also safe to say that he had come from a pretty rough background, and with the murder of his stepfather still weighing heavy, Daniel's behavioral issues had already led him to walk away from an education without attending so much as a day of high school. Forced to enter an unstable workforce, he proceeded to jump around to various unfulfilling jobs here and there in order to support himself and his mother financially. So needless to say, it didn't exactly take much persuasion for Hernandez to try his hand at rapping.
I just lost my pops when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? I lost my pops. I felt like my pops was a superhero. Like, you know what I'm saying? I felt like my pops was invincible. So when they took my pops from me, I felt naked. You know what I'm saying? That made me rebel. You know what I'm saying? That made me angry.
Fucking phony, I ain't even fuck that bitch. All I did was catch the dome. Steady knocking on my door. I ain't even fucking home. Bitches swinging on my dick. Won't leave me the fuck alone.
Hernandez quickly began to craft a brand new public persona. The name Tekashi being inspired by his love for Japanese anime, with the numbers 6ix9ine being pretty obvious. Come on. Hernandez proceeded to drop 3 separate aggro trap singles throughout 2014, one of which exhibiting graphic hentai in the music video, with another featuring 2 more established rappers from the Brooklyn group Pro Era. See, it was a combination of these provocative themes and public affiliations with those in the industry that gave Hernandez his first dose of credibility, working to shape his image and aggressive delivery over the course of the next few years. Along with the community becoming more and more familiar with the up-and-coming rapper, his audacious personality began to speak for itself. As aptly stated by Rolling Stone, many of his closest friends had once been enemies, while many of his enemies were once his closest friends.
And you had niggas pull up to the video shoot, nigga, and sit in the cut in the car, nigga, and follow me home
so
like
hurt
a bitch,
right now.
nigga.
All right.
I'm what? Huh?
No, let's take turns.
I'm just talking to a pussy right now.
I think we can all agree that drama, whether toxic or otherwise, makes for some great entertainment. It gives us something to talk about, regardless of how counterproductive we may say it is. Controversy will always draw eyes, which is a phenomenon 6ix9ine was quick to capitalize on during the height of Instagram clout chaser prominence, a tactic that ultimately worked in the moment, but arguably tainted his career in the long run. On the evening of February 21st, 2015, Tekashi 6ix9ine and fellow rapper Taquan Anderson flew out to a trap house located in Harlem, where they intended to shoot their next music video later that night. But sadly, that's not exactly what ended up taking place.
I'm here to look you in your eye, and I'm expecting you to tell me the truth. And you talking to millions of people right now.
Bro, I'm ready to leave it all on the table. This is where the real interviews start right now, you feel me?
Although the details of this night depend solely on whoever 6ix9ine is talking to at a given time, this hasn't stopped anyone from gathering a general sense of what went down. Because according to an official criminal complaint filed against the rapper, 3 very specific videos were uploaded to Daniel's Instagram that night, all of which depicting a rather intense scene involving underage drinking, sex, nudity, and most importantly, the assault of a 13-year-old girl.
This happened 3 to 4 years ago. It started in Harlem. I was in Harlem.
Was she actually 19?
No, she wasn't. She wasn't. I don't know her exact age. I think she was like 14 or some shit like that. Tekashi 6ix9ine personally uploaded the video. Remember, I'm not touching the girl. I'm not having sexual intercourse with the girl. I'm not doing nothing. She just nude in some type of way.
Now, of course, Daniel's alibi has changed a bit since this interview. It actually turns out that 6ix9ine can be seen fondling the child's breasts, spanking her behind, and making hip-thrusting motions as she was simultaneously penetrated by 2 other adult males, which is only slightly different than saying there was no sex whatsoever. Not to mention this trilogy of reprehensible sex tapes being publicly broadcast to countless followers online, one of which being the young girl's own mother. Being the one who filed the initial complaint, she couldn't have been more shocked and traumatized to have witnessed the blatant violation of her own child. Having been backed into a corner, 6ix9ine confessed to the crime almost immediately, and quickly admitted to posting the videos of him and his colleagues to social media. With bail set at a cool $100,000, Daniel Hernandez would spend just a couple months locked away at racketeering Rikers Island's jail. And if that doesn't seem like enough, that's because it wasn't. But with the prosecutor threatening years behind bars, 6ix9ine's lawyer managed to strike up a plea deal, and a pretty generous one at that. If he successfully completed everything laid out within the deal, he wouldn't have to register as a sex offender, skirting by on the youthful offender title instead.
So does that make you a registered sex offender now because you did plead guilty?
Nah, I'm a youth. I was a youth. I got a youth offender.
Okay.
A juvenile, right?
And they, yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Nah.
Now, writing the incident off as being in the wrong place at the wrong time, downplaying his entire role in the video, even saying he had to do it for his image, hilariously comparing himself to Meek Mill, whose one drug charge infamously placed him on 10 years probation. It was just one victim narrative after another, no matter how pathetic it got. According to him, she claimed to be 19 that night, which would have made her actually older than the 18-year-old 6ix9ine. But if you ask me, a 19-year-old girl is a world's difference from a 13-year-old girl. And I'd say that's kind of the general consensus too. Doesn't matter how fucked up you are, most of us can tell the difference between a child and a legal adult. Despite how wrong and utterly dangerous it is to pretend to be older than you really are, it's usually not hard to differentiate between an 8th grader and a sophomore in college. But you know, maybe that's just me.
You know how girls are. Y'all be on World Star. Y'all be on these pages, you know what I'm saying? And y'all know how that shit goes. I'm panicking. I don't got money for a lawyer. I'm broke. I'm like, how my life get to this point? Like, why am I going so, you know what I'm saying? I panic, bro. Yo, I'm a little ass kid, bro. Like a baby, bro. I'm a baby. I'm not 40 years old. I'm not 30 years old. I'm not you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not no pedophile nigga that like bid all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a baby. I'm a kid, bro.
Sadly enough, the fact of the matter was her appearance didn't stop at least 3 adult men from violating a child that night. On camera, in front of God knows how many people. A permanent blemish on his career that would make it all the more difficult for 6ix9ine to move forward into the mainstream. SoundCloud rap, an underrated subgenre frequently written off by fans of hip-hop, forced its way onto a mainstream stage in 2016, when up-and-comer Lil Uzi Vert landed on the much-desired cover of XXL magazine, accompanying fellow SoundCloud artists Lil Yachty and Denzel Curry in the most viewed freshman cypher to date. Record executives were finally being forced to pay attention to this new wave of young talent, with many of these once underground artists signing deals with massive labels. Names like Lil Pump and Trippie Redd were receiving widespread attention like never before. And by 2017, these very labels began to pick up on our friend Tekashi, who was quickly signed by an independent label known as 10K Projects. Clearly a family of high status and power. The top executive was the son of UMG's CEO. So for them to recognize 6ix9ine as a valuable asset meant everything. Not to mention the cascade of new connections this deal would provide, being introduced to famous trap producer Pierre Bourne that year, who gifted Tekashi with a beat originally made for Trippie Redd. This single instrumental would soon provide the critically acclaimed backbone of 6ix9ine's first real breakout track. To call this song controversial would be a serious understatement. Receiving more views than the estimated US population, Gummo features an onslaught of provocative themes, whether depicted through the liberal use of gang colors or the contentious bars themselves.
You run up and they shooting niggas, we ain't hooping nigga. Look at B, you a loser nigga, up that Uzi nigga.
But as with most edgy music, it was the provocativeness of it all that made the track such a spectacle. Whether or not that was a good thing was heavily up to your own interpretation.
The song's producer Pierre Bourne famously denounced the record upon its release and later shared with Genius that he was not cool with how it all went down.
I never wanted to have anything to do with that song just because of how they went about releasing it.
It was very disrespectful.
It wasn't exactly hard for 6ix9ine to become a meme either, with his signature rainbow hair and inflammatory array of tattoos riddled all over his body, complementing the general image the Brooklyn rapper was attempting to capture. He wanted people to believe he was a gangster through and through, in spite of never actually being involved with such a lifestyle prior to rapping. A fraudulent cover that 6ix9ine would intend to exploit as his career continued to flourish. Partly for the best, but mostly for the worst.
In August, the feds used these lyrics to show that they, quote, refer in part to an ongoing dispute. On Tuesday, 6ix testified that he was behind a scuffle involving Trippie Redd and 9 Trey gang members, supposedly saying, quote, I told Shotty I wanted something done about Trippie. Shotty, say less. We'll get on top of it.
Kifano Jordan is a music executive who goes by the name of Shotty. Today, he's serving 15 years in prison, but 2 years ago, he was spending most of his time alongside his friend 6ix9ine, acting as his so-called manager throughout 2018. This is a man who would be quite instrumental in shaping 6ix9ine's desired image as a gangster, with Shotty himself having actual ties to the 9 Trey blood gangsters, an infamously violent set of the United Blood street gang. Shotty was said to be the prime influence in Tekashi's public adoration and support of the 9 Trey Nation, with the nickname Treyway becoming synonymous with the 6ix9ine brand. Gang politics were quickly infused into the rapper's songs from there on out, despite coming across as dishonest and manufactured to anyone in 6ix9ine's inner circle who knew better. In short, he wasn't the hardcore gang banger he claimed to be. He was an inexperienced teenage father relying on a fake reputation to pay the bills.
Last time you said something, I ain't had time. But today, I got time. You better get the fuck off my line, nigga. Rat boy. You really better leave me alone. I ain't the one. No way. No way.
6ix9ine would soon ignite firestorms with just about any high-profile name he could find, which may have been more of a problem if they weren't giving him exactly what he wanted at the end of the day. He didn't care who he pissed off, he was a troll at heart, and with his new persona came a new, real sense of danger, one that he hadn't really experienced before. Just take a look at the fistfight he got himself into at LAX, or the gunfire reported at numerous recording sessions. One of the bullets even piercing the dressing room of Nicki Minaj? He was putting countless affiliates at risk in exchange for the edgy caricature the media gave him. This new lifestyle of violence going so far as to get him kidnapped and beaten after flexing a $300,000 necklace on Instagram, reportedly having to jump out of a moving vehicle to escape. During this time, he was heavily pressured by his colleagues to move to LA, given how dangerous New York had become for the young rapper. But the truth was, 6ix9ine never really cared what happened to him, so long as he had the nation captivated at all times. This was really the only tactic that could have projected him to the mainstream so quickly, making new enemies at every turn and putting himself at risk with each day. Not to mention the jaws of law enforcement trailing close behind any and all of his online antics, being arrested on 3 separate occasions throughout the summer of 2018, and yet still somehow managing to get 13 songs up on the charts just that year alone. It was truly insane the kind of shit this guy was getting up to. But that kind of fast-paced, risky lifestyle can only last so long before things get really ugly.
I fired everybody in my team. I got no manager, I got no booking agent, no PR, no public. I don't got nobody on my team. It's just me. I want everybody to know, if you booking shows, do not book shows unless I say this show is gonna be booked with this person. They will steal your money. They're not me. I'm not signing no fucking contracts.
That don't got nothing to do with me.
Things took a turn for the worst that October when 6ix9ine announced on Instagram that he would be dropping his entire management, firing every member of his then entourage, which included his longtime friend Shotty. This, of course, came after a rather heated dispute at a Chinese restaurant in Manhattan, where members of Shotty's crew got into a physical altercation with Tekashi's label boss. But why was Shotty upset, you may be asking? Well, that's because of another plea deal 6ix9ine had just signed in court for some of the charges he had received over the summer, stating that he was no longer allowed to associate with known gang members. An obviously huge blow to the Treyway Nation. In the eyes of the law, 6ix9ine may have severed ties with a violent gang, but was hardly out of the woods yet, being shortly notified by the FBI that Shotty may have been in the midst of plotting an attempt on his life, as evident by some transcripts obtained via wiretap.
You don't know nothing about this lifestyle that you perpetrated, but you know, come on, Scott, we made you who you was, so you could help us in our situation, nigga. Swapped it out. Don't try to act like it wasn't an even exchange. We gave you life, and you introduced us to the bag.
Yeah, what he got to say, and then I'm gonna start firing on everything.
But before anything else could happen, Shotty and his crew were indicted, along with 6ix9ine himself. Turns out the feds had been building a case against the crew for a while, on the basis of racketeering, which at the time was big news.
Federal authorities have arrested controversial rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine. The 22-year-old Brooklyn-based rapper was reportedly one of 4 people arrested on racketeering and firearms charges. Law enforcement also arrested Tekashi 6ix9ine's associates named Kifano Jordan, Denzel Butler, and Fahim Walter.
Now, of course, it goes without saying that even some of the greatest artists of all time have faced conviction for an array of illegal activities they may have been involved in throughout their time in the limelight. It isn't exactly unprecedented of those who exhibit a gangster persona to actually possess criminal records themselves. But when it comes to someone like 6ix9ine, who had never been involved with such crime prior to making music, the charges seem to carry more weight, at least as far as the public eye is concerned. Not to mention the fact that this was a guy who filmed the rape of a 13-year-old girl just a few years prior of his attempt to grow popularity in the height of the Me Too era. So you can understand why he would receive so much press at the time of his racketeering incident. According to multiple outlets, 6ix9ine and his associates were accused of an entire slew of illegal happenings, ranging from possession of illegal weapons to 2 murder attempts. Not to mention drug dealing and armed robbery, where 6ix9ine had reportedly filmed some 9 Trey gangsters breaking into a business near Times Square, which was ultimately the reason he was met with such harsh legal backlash. He filmed everything. Uploading these insane videos to his Instagram is what partially made him such a spectacle. His online antics were attached to his brand. But as a consequence, all of the evidence was right there at the FBI's fingertips. It would seem his addiction to social climbing would indirectly expose the 9 Trey gangsters to the eye of the law, resulting in the inevitable indictment and slew of gang-incited death threats that soon came his way.
Surprisingly, Hernandez's biological father appeared in court despite many years of separation.
That's why I came to see you.
If you were given a chance to speak today, what were you going to say?
I love him so much that I miss you.
The judge didn't exactly go easy on our friend either, denying 6ix9ine bail and sending him off to an unspecified facility somewhere in Queens, safe from the clutches of other 9 Trey gang members in prison. Although his lawyer at the time made it clear that 6ix9ine was never a gangster and had no real ties to the gang in question, he was still staring down the barrel of a 37-year sentence minimum by December of 2018. Things were starting to look pretty grim for the musician, as his first studio album Dummy Boy was released and subsequently demolished by critics as he sat defenseless in a jail cell.
Yeah, it's not really a song that I enjoy. It's probably the least interesting song 6ix9ine has released in a while.
6ix9ine's nasally auto-tuned singing is terrible. It's garbage.
Standard 6ix9ine shouting. Nothing really interesting about it. I'm not a big fan of the beat, so the beat can't carry it.
I sort of take him at this point as just like a social media personality who also happens to make music.
You know, another thing his lawyer said a little before his sentencing was that 6ix9ine had never cooperated with police and had no intention of doing so. Boy, did that change. Judge Paul Engelmeyer was quick to commend Daniel Hernandez for his courageous cooperation with law enforcement after pleading guilty and even going so far as to testify against his own fellow 9 Trey gang members over the span of 2019. Really, it seemed to be the only way for him to shave a potential life sentencing down to just 2 years in jail, 5 years of supervised release. A reduced sentence that was eventually granted, but not without him outing former friends such as Jim Jones, Shoddy, and Mel Matrix as having ties with the violent gang themselves, reigniting old beef with Trippie Redd and Chief Keef in the process, and sparking an entire convoluted dispute with Cardi B.
If you are in the streets, if you commit yourself to the streets, right? If you commit yourself to the streets, if you are in the streets, there's an oath that you take. There's rules in the streets. You're not gonna be selling drugs. You're not gonna be committing crimes, and the crimes that you commit are street crimes. And then when you get locked up, you're going to snitch. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it seems that even while serving a sentence, he was still giving fellow artists new reasons to hate him.
If there is a street code, right? If there is a street code and there's something so-called as loyalty and everything and no snitching and all of that, I get it, right? But where was the loyalty when you was sleeping with my baby mother? Where was the loyalty when you was caught on the wiretap trying to kill me? Where was the loyalty when you tried to kidnap my mother? So who broke it first? I get it. Don't fight fire with fire. I'm sorry. But what did I do wrong?
Now, there are a few pretty big taboos when it comes to the world of hip-hop, one of which being snitching. If you go so far as to rat on an ex-associate or friend, people aren't gonna like that. But that's always been his vice. Wearing many of his controversies on his sleeve, he's naturally taken the same approach when ratting out former gang members in a court of law. He approached it the same way he would any other controversy, as if he's attempting to take his troll game to the next level, by pushing the boundaries of what is deemed socially acceptable to a point that his own career may not be able to withstand.
Listen, I don't give a fuck if I'm held accountable for what I did. Yes, I snitched, and I did it proudly, right?
Why do you come out, once again, a question, and instead of being like, yo, I did what I had to do for my family, I'm turning the page and moving on with my life, why is it an attempt to make snitching mainstream and cool instead? You know what I'm saying?
It's one thing that you've never seen before, and that's why you having a tough time.
I'm trying, Danny. I'm fucking trying.
You're having a tough time.
I'm trying.
You're having a tough time registering it.
Okay.
Because you've never seen it before.
Despite his victims' pleas for a longer sentencing, 6ix9ine was released from jail earlier than anyone could have expected, as the judge officially placed him on house arrest the morning of April 2nd, 2020, with chronic asthma making Tekashi especially vulnerable to you-know-what. The feds figured he'd be better off at home than anywhere else. A surprising return met with volatile reactions from fans and critics. This would be 6ix9ine's first time walking free, since the past year he spent testifying against his former allies. Sure to bring a wave of new drama, which was sure to bring an array of new music.
You're mad, I'm back. Big mad, he's mad, she's mad, big sad. Ha ha, don't care, stay mad.
6ix9ine got right back into releasing new projects almost immediately upon arrival, hitting the internet with an unapologetically striking and annoyingly catchy single, Gooba, in May of 2020. The song and music video basically proved to us that Tekashi had hardly changed at all since his departure at the end of 2018, bragging about money and women in typical clout chaser fashion. It was annoying and stupid, but made for a pretty fitting return when you consider who we're dealing with.
Looney Tunes character on the
the front cover. For as long as 6ix9ine has been a relevant rapper, he's also been a social media carnival barker. It's getting to the point where the mythology of him is beginning to overshadow his music.
After his second studio album received horrendous reviews from critics and tanked in sales numbers, it's hard to foresee where a career as volatile as 6ix9ine's goes from here. It wasn't necessarily his talent that made 6ix9ine the face of SoundCloud rap. Definitely wasn't his genius wordplay or his seamless flow. Rather, it was his eagerness of being perceived as something he wasn't. A hardcore blood gangster with a passion for trolling. His Instagram stunts were enough to cause uproar for a few days at a time. Sure, maybe land a few no-jumper interviews here and there, a couple singles on Billboard's Hot 100s, but 6ix9ine has just never been able to perfect the longevity of his music. He uses drama and antics as a crutch for his lacking musical abilities, a tactic that isn't capable of sustaining a career longer than the 15 minutes he's already spent in the mainstream spotlight. He built a career around fickle circumstances destined to fall apart, and although these controversies may have propelled him to impressive stardom in the short term, this supervillain, meme lord reputation just doesn't resonate with enough people. Not on a long-term scale, at least. These theatrics become boring and essentially overshadow the musical potential we should be seeing from an artist of his standing. The fact of the matter is, we're living in a world where the spectacle of Tekashi 6ix9ine is meant to substitute his non-existent ability to connect with more listeners on a deeper level, making him one of the more polarizing yet embarrassingly shallow icons of this generation.
I don't want to be a superhero. I want to be like, I want to be a villain. The villains never die. Superheroes always die. I'm a villain. Fuck being a superhero. I ain't trying to save shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to save nothing. I'm destroying anything that's in my way.
Keep on,